We're back. AMG Hobby Talk number 86, proper summer edition. Because right now, the last couple of days have felt like proper summer. I won't speak for the Maritimes, but let's just say my heat pump has been going, and I got a little hose that gives all the moisture out of the air as soon as the dehumidifier works. And let me tell you, water is. I can fill a lake with all the water that's coming out of the oxygen. So Blair is on location inside the store, but he's over in the attic. Blair, how's the attic going?
It's fun actually. It's quiet here, but it's fun. I haven't done one live from the attic in a bit, so
It's
yeah,
cavernous.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I never get to sit back here. I'm usually just Steve's like, "Here, I got some more attic stuff. Price it, boom, off we go. Next task." So it's kind of fun to sit back here.
Yep. We're gonna figure out his camera angle, and then you'll be able to see a little bit more of it. But right now, you can see and hear Blair in glorious HD. You're getting him in full HD right now.
Look at that.
Yeah. See, there's a lot of stuff going back there. We'll figure it out. We'll make an adjustment. But right now, you can hear
Yes.
him and see him pretty well. So good
Yeah.
start anyway. Steve, collect the scalps, collect the people. How are you?
I'm fantastic, actually. It's I believe this is
Holy
the
cow.
hottest day of the summer out east as well. So, good place to be actually indoors in the AC.
Mm-hmm. So I want to get context because right now hereabouts, it ended up with humidity. It sits at about 44, 45 Celsius. So how warm is it getting out there?
N-
Well,
Not
you guys, not that hot. You guys
not
always
that
like to
hot.
one. You guys always like to one up us, so it's
Yeah.
not that hot. I think they
I
said
think
the heat index might get
30.
up to 39 today.
Oh, is
So
that right? I thought I saw with humidity feel like 34 or something, but it could be feel a little warmer than that even. But yeah.
Yeah, we got comfortably into the 40s. So I was chatting with the family, and I just said, look, if you guys want to do any errands, we'll do them, but let's do them quick and let's get you back
Yeah.
inside because basically this is where the advantage of sometimes working from home. The great indoors is kind of nice, especially when it gets warmer. I love the sun, so for me, being born in Panama in July, I can take a lot of heat, but humidity it kind of beats you down a little bit. Once it gets into that 40 with the heat index, it's not. I don't want to be spending too much time outside unless I have to. So regardless, it is warm, but it is definitely summertime. It definitely feels like it
Yeah.
this time of year for sure. So we're going to talk about a couple different things. I'll mention one thing off the top since it is this week. So at the time we're recording this will drop on Wednesday. This episode, and this week is actually going to be the trade night and card show. So the trade night is going to be on the Friday, and then the card show is going to be on Saturday between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly share that on the screen here, and we'll make a couple of news and notes about this, and then we'll make sure we cover it. Okay, so there it is on the screen, the little graphic. By the way, I'm going to show you the graphic because also, in addition, it also shows the subsequent dates. We're going to keep reminding you. But June
Mhm.
28th is the next one that's coming up this week. So we're telling you again this week because of that. And it's all going to be inside the Bedford Place Mall. So if you know where the card shop is, then you're going to be able to find the card show. Trade night is going to be on the Friday right before that. But then there's also going to be a show on July 26th, on August 30th, September 27th, October 25th, and November 29th. So we're going
Mhm.
straight through towards the end of the year. So we're not taking a month off. There's still going to be some stuff in there. And we'll talk briefly about as well, since it is the summertime, some people are going to be out at the cottages. They're going to be out, hanging out at different places. However, if you are partaking in some of this, it also means you're going to have a little breathing room. You're going to be able to maybe negotiate, chat a little bit, look into some stuff. And we'll, over the next couple of weeks, we'll probably showcase a little bit of that too. Because if you are by the store, we're going to encourage you to go check out some singles and things like that. And you're going to have a chance to take a little look. Maybe you can take advantage of the fact some other people aren't around and pick up some stuff for yourself. But trade night and card show, as I mentioned, any notes we want to make about the card show?
yeah, like you touched on, it's the summertime, so you never know what you're going to get. You would expect the crowds to be smaller, so it might be a great idea or a great opportunity to be able to weasel your way in a little bit closer to the tables because last time it was absolutely packed. But with that being said, we're completely sold out for
Yeah.
dealers again, so it's probably going to be another great turnout. And just come early. It's 9 to 3, but early bird gets the worm. So come early in the morning, and you'll still be able to enjoy the rest of your day.
Mm-hmm. For sure. As I said, I would say take it as an opportunity. If you are around and you're in the area and you want to pop in for a little bit, maybe take advantage of it and check it out. And if it's a little quiet for some of the dealers, they might be very motivated to do a deal with you. So like I said, maybe it could work out in your favor. Just throwing that out there if you're in the area. So we wanted to make sure we shared that with you. Briefly, I'll touch on a couple of different products that are coming in. List is not super extensive. A lot of it is going to be restocks. In fact, I think all of the ones that I'm looking at right now are restocks, but I'll go over the list really quick for you. And if there's anything notable, the guys can make sure to mention it. All right. So first one here is a little bit on the kind of on the pop culture side. We've talked, I think we'd mentioned this in the past a long time ago, but one of them was 2024 Panini Prism Rolling Stones Mega Box. I don't know if I can give you too much of a mega on the mega box. So, it is the Rolling Stones, but nonetheless, if you're a fan of the band, it is kind of an interesting one. Again, for quantities and pricing, if you're curious about that, reach out directly to the store because in some cases the stock may be limited. So if you are curious and you want to make sure you get your hands on some of it, do reach out directly for quantities and pricing. That is best. Next one. 2025 Panini Prism English Premier Soccer. So if you enjoy yourself some of the footy, there's some of that. Pokemon EX Box Team Rockets Mewtwo. Not familiar with that one, but maybe Blair can give some insight. Pokemon Special Collection Charizard and Pokemon Galar Pals Minitin display. Fair enough.
Good job.
Yeah. Real quick, out of those three, is there anything worth noting? Anything in particular?
The Mewtwo Destined Rivals box, that's going to be new. So likely promo and things in that some of our fans that are doing that set might be interested in. So I think that'll be a good seller.
Very good. Next up here, 2025 Panini Basketball Donruss Blaster. So if you like a little basketball, especially now that the Oklahoma City Thunder are your NBA champions, and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, a little bit of CanCon, Canadian content, as your MVP, maybe you can pull a Shea card. So there you go. Scrolling through here, 2025 Topps Baseball Series 2 Value Box. So another form factor there for Series 2. Again, quantity and pricing, reach out to the store. 2025 Marvel Comics Chrome Value Box. So that's a possibility as well. And then, of course, top loaders. Oh, my God.
More.
Yep. Second installment of the top loaders, which we are very happy to receive. And I will point out those the Series 2 value boxes. We had such a small supply of the hobby boxes. A lot of people, unfortunately, couldn't to get any. So we do have not a large amount, but enough to kind of share the wealth. So definitely, if you didn't get any Series 2, pop in and grab a value box. Probably do a limit per customer just to make sure everyone can get one.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over a couple of comments from the last couple of episodes. We'll do that quickly. And then after that, we'll talk about some cards that came in the shop. And then we'll do a little bit of suggestions and we'll briefly talk about Fanatics Fest. No one here attended the Fanatics Fest, although we do know someone that did. We could discuss maybe next week getting a couple of thoughts, at least get some correspondence from them. However, I do have a couple of questions related to that these guys can still answer. So I'm still going to ask them some questions that we can discuss. Okay. So a couple of quick comments here we want to touch on. So from the last week's episode regarding Parkhurst Champions, Tim Logan here says, absolutely love the vintage cards that came in the store, especially the Bird Magic Rookie. Definitely an iconic card for sure. Definitely. Thank you, Tim. And Dad Boom here from the Premier Hockey Case Break. So this is probably a couple of weeks back now. Thanks for sharing the break. I'll never understand why shops sell hobby boxes like Premier, Ultimate, Black Diamond for so much when the return is often so terrible by comparison. So I'm reading the comment because it's a fair comment. However, I would point out, and I think this is a fair thing to say, we're here to educate. But we got to kind of play both sides here because at the end of the day, it's still a shop. The goal is to sell the product. But the question here is why they sell it for so much. That's because of cost. Like it's the business side of it means so. And real quick, Steve, I think it's worthwhile doing a quick refresher because some folks don't realize this. When the manufacturer produces the product, they're selling it generally to the distributor at one price. So whatever price they sell it at, whatever Upper Deck in this case comes up with, they sell it to the distributor. Upper Deck is making money on this. Their job is to make money. So they're selling the product and they mark it up X%, whatever it is. Generally, we don't have access to it. We don't know what their percentage is. But then the distributor buys it at that price. A shop like AMG will usually buy from a distributor. And then the distributor, in turn, will mark it up X%. So whatever they bought it at, add more, then that price is actually what AMG gets it at. And then you, the consumer, get it after a third markup. So even if the goal is to be like as nice as possible, even if you make the markup minimal, it's already been marked up 3 different times by the time you, the consumer, get it.
Yeah, and our markup, and again, not everyone believes us when we say this, but our markup is shockingly small on
Mhm.
items. Some of them, unfortunately, by the time they get to us, because there could be delays sometimes, maybe especially like on football or basketball product, we might get it a week or two later than the US market, and it's kind of already had its initial um, boom or craze. By the time it gets to us, it's calmed down a little bit. And a lot of times, like, we're almost at cost on a lot of it, or we have to sell it, with our margins to pay for the product, but it a little slow selling because people have found other sources to buy it, whether it come from the States or whatever, because they've already had that initial boom and now they're trying to unload it. Well, we're just getting it, so it makes it tough sometimes. But yeah, margins are small in a hobby shop. That much I can say. And if ten products come in, 9 of them has very, very small margins. The odd one will be like, oh, okay, we can do all right with this one. But yeah,
Yeah.
like Carlos said, if the price has kind of been bumped up 2 or 3 times before it even makes it to the hobby store. And then the other thing people don't people have started like comparing big box stores to hobby shops.
Yeah.
And especially a place like GameStop and that's now diving into this market. And people say, oh, GameStop's so much cheaper than you guys or that store. That, well, they should be able to, because
Mhm.
they've got like 2,000 stores. So when they call the distributor and say we need 20,000 products to satisfy the market, of course their margins are going to be a lot better than ours, where we might get 10 of something. So
Yeah.
the little hobby shop has to maximize the profit margins on a lot of things. So I'm noticing that a lot with Pokemon, even though that's kind of Blair's specialty. Some people will comment about, I can get it cheaper here and cheaper there. And a lot of times you can, because
Yep.
of, the amount of product that they're able to bring in compared to the little guy, which I
Yeah.
guess we will throw ourselves in that category.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, we're a hobby shop, but yeah, I mean, people have been, hey, the Costco does this and, GameStop does that, and of course they can. Yeah, like Steve said, their buying power is a lot more when they're, right across the country, and we're just AMG here in Halifax. So we always do our best to try to give our clients the best, but like Steve said, sometimes our hands are tied, the margins are, and coming from a collector, like I, never worked in a sports store before. I bought products, but never really put any thought into what they're paying. Probably thought, okay, these guys are making, lots of money on this product. But now, having been in this environment for a few years and starting to see and realize, yeah, exactly what Steve said. Like, you might get one out of every 10 products where we can make, a little bit more, but a lot of it, the margins are very small. And yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
point, actually. Blair's coming from the collecting side,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
now he sees margins in that. It is a bit of
It
an eye opener, and even like
totally.
it affects us a little bit too, because sometimes we want to give people a deal. Like, I know the other day a guy was in here trying to buy some blasters. Our
Yeah,
markup on those blasters was like $3, and then
yeah,
he's like, can you do $5 less? And I mean, $5 doesn't sound like a lot, but like I said, I just kind of
it,
looked at him and like, no, unfortunately, we can't.
yeah,
And
yeah.
kind of the look he kind of gave me the, oh yes, you can. And I'm like, well, no, because
No,
$3 is $3
it,
is it. So,
yeah, yeah,
but and sometimes they just look at you like you're you know blowing smoke basically. But no, it's thin margins on most stuff, and we do
yeah,
the best we can.
yeah,
And when we can pass on that savings, absolutely.
yeah. And then even on the other end, sometimes a product is hot and we get a small amount of. Sometimes we're able to get a second go around, and that's the other thing. Sometimes the second go around costs us more than the first go around. So sometimes people come in. I noticed on a few Pokemon products we brought in, and some people wanted to, can you do this on that? And I'm like, well, really, we can't, because the first go around was this, the second go around, now we're paying more. So, Yeah, no, it's been a real eye opener for me, coming from that collecting side. So like, yeah, we do the best we can with what we have, and when we can, we'll put a deal on, and try to do the best we can for the collecting community.
And we are fortunate too. Like we have a good working relationship with with our customers, but
Yeah.
and they understand. But and some people are just learning the process as well. So for the most part, things go smoothly and
Yeah.
people understand. But yeah, and sometimes it's probably frustrating, for us and for the buyer and for our customers. But we're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a couple of things real quick, just to put a button on this one, also close it off. I wanted to make sure the guys kind of gave that explanation because it is a bit of a weird side of the business. Realistically, boxes are not generally how our store makes its money. It's something that you want to provide because obviously people would like to have the chance to open some packs and maybe pull a cool card, and all those things are part of it.
Absolutely.
Once you get a chance to see though a couple of those invoices, like I said, I'm not there at AMG day to day. These guys are there on their day to day, but I've seen those invoices, and I've gotten a chance to look at some of them, and I've also had the chance to look at them for some of the other businesses as well because I've done
Hmm.
business with some of them, and some of them are willing to be that transparent that they were like, no, I literally will show you what the cost is on this product, especially when you're negotiating with them to buy a volume of it, uh, and the margins are shockingly small. That's why I wanted to give that chain, just so you understand. Manufacturer, they get their markup. Distributor is kind of the in between. That's where the
Hmm.
Fanatics thing, and we're going to talk about Fanatics Fest in a minute. But the Fanatics thing is interesting because some of them are starting to go direct to dealer model, cutting out the distributor in the middle. Now, that may not still translate to savings necessarily on your end of
Right.
it because now Fanatics is also the distributor in cases like that. However, the point is, though, in theory, though, if you've got the manufacturer taking a profit and then the distributor is getting their own cut, whatever they determine that to be, and to Steve and Blair's point, depending on how much you can buy, that's your negotiating power. The more stuff you're buying, the more you can actually leverage and go, hey, you charged me a lot for this one. This other product, I really want it. I know people that I have that want it. I want it at this price. And sometimes that can be arranged. Sometimes not, but sometimes basically the more you buy, the more you have the ability to make that call and to make that specific point. You can be like, hey, look, I bought 100 cases of this thing for you that you can't move. Give me a break on this thing. And sometimes that's a deal that can be arranged. So that changes the math on a lot of the stuff. But you as the consumer, by the time you're getting it, it's the third markup. And even if everybody was modest, regardless, you're still paying more than when we started. Because if everybody takes a little bit, by the time you're at the end of it, that marks some of the pricing. And the other quick thing that I wanted to mention, that's why that breaks, since you made the comment on one of the hockey case breaks. That's why actually we like showcasing it when we can, because the hockey case break, good, bad, or indifferent, is the real result. So
Hmm.
part of the education piece is we're actually letting you see what the break. We're not just showing you a break where everybody pulled shield cards.
Right.
We're showing you the break if this is what they pulled, because in a lot of cases it's Brad and Sherry opening their own personal stuff. That's for their own personal stuff. So if it's good, there's been an Austin Matthews shield card was pulled in one of those breaks,
Hmm.
but then there's a bunch of other breaks where not so great. So it tells you it's a mixed bag. But
Yeah.
I think that's a more realistic reflection of what the reality is. Even if you're doing it at the case level, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. But then you get a chance to see what it looks like and then make your own, use it as education, make it help you make your own decision in terms of what you. So when we'll go over a lot of these products, we'll try to give you at least as much information as we can. Some of it we're not going to know what you're going to be able to do. You open a box, maybe you pull an amazing card and you do way better than the average. Somebody else who opens the same box doesn't do as great. Your
Yep.
mileage will vary on that. But thank you for the question, and thank you for the thought on that. And I thought it was worthwhile at least giving that piece since
Hmm.
it's been a little while since we talked about it. But just remember, there is 3 levels, and that's assuming Blair mentioned it briefly. We're not even taking into account restocks.
Hmm.
Restocks can make things more complicated, or if a product is super hot and you're buying it off the secondary market from somebody who had already bought it off of one of those 3 levels, well, then that also makes it more expensive. But just to keep it simple, if it's just a straight line, manufacturer, distributor, dealer, generally speaking. But then you, consumer, are the fourth person in that chain. And that's oftentimes that's how you arrive at the price that you're looking at when you see it.
Yep.
Hope that helps. All right, so real quick here, let's showcase a couple of cards that came in the store. A couple of these are actually from the cup. We had mentioned obviously a previous cup break, an infamous one, but I'll go over some different items here. and we'll showcase a few of them. All right, so here we go. Start off with this one, thematically appropriate from the most recent Stanley Cup final. Renditions Relics, a Connor McDavid. This is, I do appreciate that the image is dated as well, from January 2024 on there. A nice patch piece, so we've got that on there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Steve is willing to commit now. I think he is willing to finally make a call on who's winning the Stanley Cup this year.
Carolina.
Missed it by that much.
Not much.
And I will, we mentioned it before we started, these cup cards, and I believe Blair was involved in this, and maybe fortunately, a couple of weeks ago, 7 good customers and friends came into the shop on a Friday, and someone brought up, hey guys, why don't we all pool our resources and open a case of the cup? So Blair, bowed down to peer pressure, and he got in on it as well. So they did open the case, and then they're going to split the cost evenly. And then when they were done the first case, I don't think they were satisfied, and someone said, why don't we open another case of the cup? And I like stirring the pot, so I like to take some credit for convincing them to open
The second
case. So they have 72 cards from 2 cases, and they all made the decision. They're going to, I believe, Slabshark them all. And then, whatever the selling prices are, they will then decide how much they each owe or they receive for selling the cards. So these first 3 or 4 cards are from the 2 cases of the cup. And there's probably about 10 really good cards. But yeah, if you check out Slabsharks, they're probably just running all 72 of them right in a row. So they end Thursday night. So for Blair's sake, please go on and bid on some of these cards. But I look forward to Friday morning tabulating and finding out how much I either owe them or they owe us. Right now it could go either way.
I think it's the latter.
I'm just trying to be positive, Blair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank
But
you.
there are some really nice cards, so good luck to them. And they had a lot of fun. Good long time friends, collectors. Some of them were dealers, and we had a lot of laughs. And
It was fun.
I again loved heckling them every step of the way.
There you go. These are the things that you can experience if you happen to be around at AMG during the right times. But yes, if you see a couple of the cup cards, for Blair's sake, bid generously on the Slabshark auctions on eBay. So that is where you can locate those. I'll see if I remember. I'll throw a link to the Slabsharks, basically their eBay store, and you can find some of these items that we're picturing may wind up in that auction this week, only a day or so after.
Blair would appreciate it.
Yeah.
I think some of the responsibility. I think the guys thought Steve picked the first case, so some of the chatter was that he purposely picked the least best case. So I think that was some of the in on how we got into the second case. Well, the second case must be better.
Not my first rodeo.
No, Steve was an instigator.
Mm-hmm. Scandalous. Well, going back to the conversation we had a few minutes ago, you see, it's not like he cherry picked the best case and got all the best stuff out of it. But there are some nice looking cards. So the McDavid and Draisaitl is a nice one. So this one is a Splendor, which is also inside of the cup as well. Nick Suzuki, we got an autographed patch on here, number 36. Very nice. This next one is not the cup, but the one after that will be. I think there will be a couple more that we'll show from the cup here. No, this is the cup, sorry. This is the notable nameplates. So Shesterkin, hand numbered to 10. So you got a nice big piece on that card. A nice big piece of the patch, I think probably from Rangers. That's a pretty good looking one, actually. That's not bad. I like the design on that. This one is kind of a fun one, kind of following a theme of stuff we talked about. We did a little offline conversation about a ticket card, a booklet as well. This one from the cup. Pavel Bure, though, has this one could be interesting because Pavel Bure has a very hardcore following of player collectors. Some of them are really militant about finding some of these Pavel Bure cards. And you get a nice on-card auto here. You got a little piece of a ticket there from the Canucks versus the Bruins. Now, and what kind of adds some legitimacy to it. Look at the hand numbering. Little bit smudgy on that one. Somebody was having a little bit of fun with that one. But I think it's kind of a neat card. I do like the fact this booklet design I think actually works pretty well. In contrast to another card that I showed the guys before we record, this one design-wise I actually don't mind it. And you're getting a nice, decent chunk of the ticket on that, so you can actually
Yeah.
see a bit of it. And it is a booklet, so you'll be able to kind of. The upside and downside of booklets is that they're a little tough to store. You have to find the right kind of holder to really take advantage of it. Otherwise, you wind up with the booklet itself, but then you got to take it out of its holder and open it up to really be able to look at it like this. But it is a nice card. This one here is kind of a fun one. Cup Coronation. So this is a patch auto, one of
Yep.
one of Ray Bork on this one. I'm not sure about the design on this one with the patch piece, but in concept of a patch auto, I like the patch auto part. I like this a one of one. I think the overall design of the card is fine. I just don't know if this is one that needed a patch version of it with the cup there. I don't know.
It actually does look better in hand.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all really liked it. And
Okay.
there actually, I think, Blair, there was like at least 3 one-of-ones in the. I didn't get pictures of all of them, but there was some really nice cards. Again, I'm wishing for the best for them.
No. No, there was it. Yeah, I think there was at least 3 like one of ones. And then that's the Shesterkin, that's a game worn piece off a jersey letter. So yeah, there was some nice cards. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say this. Regardless of my thoughts on the design, I can believe that in hand it'll probably show a little better. I think they took a good patch piece though. I'll say the patch piece they put inside that window, I actually think they did a good job picking a piece with a couple of different colors and breaks. So I do appreciate that they at least took a nice patch piece to include in that one. Here's a Kobe Bryant, 2009 Panini Threads. Kobe on a little piece of a lettering autographed on there. So obviously Kobe isn't around anymore. So the cards like this do take on a little bit of a premium. I think a solid design. Panini Threads kind of follows into kind of that Letterman kind of theme in terms of it. So that's kind of an interesting one. We don't get a lot of Kobe's as well. Kobe auto on there.
No.
Yeah.
2003 Topps Chrome LeBron James rookie card. Mint 9 on this one. Nice. A couple of basketball cards to finish things off. And last one here, we got a little 90s insert from Skybox Thunder, the Noise Boys. So Tim Duncan on this one. Mint 9, which is solid. And the Noise Boys is kind of interesting because apparently it's like a little flexible material. It's actually kind of a thing. In hand, it's a flexible. Obviously, this one's already graded. And obviously, you can chip this thing very easily. So right now in a Mint 9, it's probably in a good state to preserve it right now. And Tim Duncan is one of those guys who obviously I think they won 5 championships with the Spurs. So he's one of those guys who obviously racked up a lot of championships, put on a Hall of Fame career. And the Noise Boys are kind of have taken on very much a cult classic in those 90s inserts. Kind of a fun one to finish it off on.
Yeah, and I think we just featured didn't metal hockey went with the Noise Boys too. I think a few weeks ago we featured a Brady to Chuck. But yeah, these ones, and this one's quite valuable because it is tough to. It's an early Tim Duncan, and it's hard to get a high grade on it. So it was it was a pleasant surprise when it received a 9.
Yep. What's old is new again. Bring it all back. So pretty good combo of different items. So hopefully you get a chance to check out some of that. If you check out the Slabsharks auctions, like you said, if you see something from the cup, there's a good chance you'll be saving Blair's life by making a couple extra bids. Just saying. He may never escape the attic. Only you can assist him in possibly getting out into the attic someday.
Or
otherwise they're going to leave him there.
Or save me from taking on a second job.
Indeed.
Or third.
Or third.
As I said, the folly of young Blair. The folly of young Blair.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So I'm going to finish it off on this. We'll have a quick conversation on it. Fanatics Fest was a big thing that happened this past week. As I mentioned, the guys weren't there, but the gallivanting Brad Hartland was. So possibly, we'll see if maybe we can get him to give some thoughts at some point in the next couple of episodes. But the reason I want to ask you a question is that obviously there was a lot of comparisons and everything. I follow a lot of different vlogs related to it. I got a chance to chat with one of the people that actually participated in it on the ground when I was doing my live stream this past weekend. And they gave their own impressions on it. Really what it is to me, and the vlogs and the conversations I had with people kind of validated this. It's a kind of a fan fest in the same vein as the MLB fan fest, the All-Star Game fan fest and things like that, with a card show attached. That's why the fest is so important, is that, yes, it's got a card show in it, but the card show isn't the main feature. It's a portion of it. The meet and greets, the panels, the different experiences. You can try this. You can run a 40-yard dash. And I did make a request for a Brad Harlan 40-yard dash. And if it didn't happen, it wasn't recorded, Steve, heads are going to roll. There will be accountability for this because I called it ahead of time and I said, I want a repeat of the Brad Harlan 40-yard dash.
Well, or we could just play the one from a few years ago until we have a more recent one.
I'm just saying. I want Chariots of Fire and I want the Brad Harlan, repeat of the last time. We got to do it again. But they had that. They had the WWE. You could go down and do an entrance of a WWE star of your choice. They had WWE people featured there. They had Tom Brady walking the aisles. Wembayama was there. That Livy Dunn was there. Now, let me separate that a lot of the stuff they did where they were buying cards, was very much set up for the cameras. It was designed to be there. They're there. And a kind of a point that I made on my separate podcast is that, Livy Dunn, I don't care if she actually is interested in the card or not. That's not really what this is about. But even if she was, she's not randomly walking from table to table to table, being harassed by people. No, they've got handlers. The handler's job is to go find, oh, we'd like you to go to this table and do whatever. Or even if one of these celebrities wanted something, Steve, the reality is any of the real celebrity collectors, they've got people who are doing it for them anonymously. They're not going to be the one. They're not going to create a scene trying to make a small purchase, especially when they get mobbed everywhere they go. But in a venue like this, where they want the photo op, they want to create the scenario, they're going to send people who, even if you are interested in something, we'll find it for you. We'll tell you which dealer has it, and we'll beeline you directly to them with security so you can do what you need to do and then get out of there with the minimum amount of hassle. And so it has to be staged. Like automatically, you have to arrange it ahead of time.
And that's always been around. Like in the past, my father and I back in the day had several, whether it's an NHL player or a celebrity that again collects. They'll have their handlers reach out to us, and then maybe at some point we meet or speak to the celebrity or athlete themselves. But now just with technology and everything's online and TikToks and that, it's become more mainstream. But FanFest to me, it's probably not something I would, as a dealer set up at, because like you said, it's more on the FanFest side. I would go as a fan or just to enjoy the day, and looks like it looked like a lot of fun. But unless you are have some incredible items, it might, and it's quite expensive to attend. So you definitely would have to give it some serious thought before going. But it sounds like it's about the fan and the experience. So it probably is a great event, but it definitely wouldn't be for every dealer. That's for sure.
Agreed.
I'd agree. So kind of two sides to this. One of the things, as you mentioned, is that obviously the goal is for Fanatics to promote its wares. That's really what it's going for. It's going to be really interesting if my expectation is they'll do the same thing again next year. And by next year, they'll have the basketball and football licenses, which will only expand the Fanatics Festness. They'll be able to add even more activations and all these things. But I do think it is kind of a fun experience for the people that go there. I think it's interesting, though. And this would be maybe the question that I would pose to you guys and the angle that I would take on this. A lot of people were trying to do the comparison with the National. To me, they're two completely different beasts, two completely different design things for two different audiences. However, there is an aspect of it where doing it in the Javits Center, doing it in this facility that's designed to be able to hold a lot of people, that has enough facilities to handle, the food establishment, all the stuff and everything. And New York is more of a premium location. We know that the National, after this current cycle, they're going to do Chicago, I think, for a couple more years. And then the very next available window is going to be either Detroit or Atlanta. So they are clearly moving to potentially bigger venues and everything. The Fanatics Fest, I think, in a way, kind of puts a little bit of pressure on them, especially if it is successful. Now, success, by the way, is measured differently. I think it's going to be a loss leader for Fanatics. I think it would be very difficult for them to ever make money on this. It's just so expensive to run, so expensive to do. But having the premium autograph signers, the meet and greets, the panels and all that. Let me ask this, though. Is there anything from what they're doing? I'm thinking like the panels and stuff like that, maybe. But is there anything the National could do, or some of these big shows could do, to steal maybe a couple of the ideas. They may not want to do all the activations and all that stuff because of how expensive it is to run. But is there some stuff they could steal from this that maybe they could borrow into their card show model?
I mean, it's tough just because there's a cost to doing those things that Fanatics is doing.
There is,
So,
yeah.
the Nationals been going strong for however many years. I haven't gone to the last 4 or 5, but just the Nationals is more for dealers and the collectors. So they wouldn't want to take away, because and again, I haven't done the Fanatics Fest, but with all the stars and the skits and the performances, and especially some of the old time dealers, they might get a little disgruntled because it does kind of take away from what the National really is. And but I mean, we can always improve on everything. So, but interesting to see what Blair has to say.
I kind of see them as two different animals. Like never being to a national, it was on my kind of bucket list to do, but I never got to one. I thought about piggybacking on Mr. Hartland's coattails one time to go, but never happened. But yeah, I just see them as two different events. Like Steve said, the nationals are more focused card collector dealers, and I think it's a whole. Could you add? And I mean, I know never been to national, but I know the Toronto Expo have their former players, current players come in and do signings and things like that. So I know the national does that probably as well. So that's kind of along that line, but as far as I think that fan fest, like Steve said, that's its own thing, and they probably do an amazing job, and I think it would be an awesome thing to go and see. But and they probably have cards there, but very specific probably on the dealers. I think a lot of the dealers that go to that probably, or sorry, a lot of the dealers at FanFest would be at the major nationals and stuff, but some of them, wouldn't do this top thing cost wise, or just, it's kind of a not a focus thing, I guess, as you want to say, is like the expo. So, but yeah, I mean, I think there are some things. What I don't know. I think it would probably come down to cost, and the nationals and the Toronto Expos, they seem to be trucking along and doing well with what they do. So, yeah, I don't know what they could do, but I mean, having some more fan interaction. But then it's like Steve said, sometimes you get dealers where they want to be selling their wares, right? They want to be moving cards, moving products. And I've heard banter from, specific dealers that, some of all these autograph kind of things take away from their, guys spending money at their tables. So it's a fine line to kind of walk there. But yeah.
I think it's fair. Let me kind of touch on this though, and we'll see. Like, obviously, the reason I posed the question is because I think there is potentially some takeaways. I know the expo actually does some panels now. That's something
Yes,
they've
yes,
slowly
right.
ingratiated into it. Or they'll get one of the hockey players to do a quick interview so people can sit and kind of watch it.
Yeah,
It's not every 5 minutes. It's not all the time, but I'm saying
right.
they've incorporated some little elements of these kind of things. So that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying. I think there's some stuff that they're doing. I'm not saying do these gigantic panels where you're going over the top with it,
exactly.
but if we go to the OG Nationals, if you actually go back to the early days of the Nationals, they would actually have these little symposiums and different things, or they would have like these classes. So there were things that they used to do. And I can tell you, like coin shows and stuff like that, when they run those things, they'll have like these classes. The American Numismatic Association, the ANA, will do these little mini seminars inside of these coin shows. Well, again, I understand it's cards, not coins, but the old Nationals used to have things where they would actually have these little mini events separate from it, or panels or things of that sort, or a class or something.
hmm
Imagine if CGC did a counterfeit detection thing at one of these shows, Steve. Like, imagine if you put it in the vein of something that might actually be useful, something that a showgoer might actually be interested in.
Yep.
Or you've still got, and like I said, the Expo has done things where they brought in they had a Formula One display a couple of years ago. They had like helmets
Yeah.
and tracksuits and stuff like that. So what I'm saying, Blair, is that's an example of like
Yep.
meeting in the middle. I'm not
Yep.
saying go full Fanatics Fest, but I'm saying borrowing little things here and there that make sense, because a jersey display thing would make sense. You show
Yep.
off a bunch of, Leaf did that back in the day. Be a player. You know, Brian Price had all his memorabilia, and he actually did a whole thing where he put a bunch of jerseys and different displays and all that, and people could actually look at them. It was free. You could just go take a look at it, take
Yeah.
pictures of it, whatever. And it
Yeah.
was its own little mini draw inside the show. It's still a card show. The goal is still to sell the cards, but if you include some of those other aspects, those little elements into it, sprinkled in with the main card show being the feature, so you just skew the ratio. Fanatics Fest is like 80% fest, 20% card show. The
Right.
card show can be 80% card show, 15, 20% fest. And you give a little bit of a different mix, but you're still getting a little bit of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Even like Sherry and I in January went to like the Upper Deck, I guess the Diamond Dealer Convention or whatever, and you know, they threw in things like whether it's insurance or you know, how to improve your business, little things like that. If there's a little, especially these big venues, they have little side rooms and things like that. But
Yep.
if you could squeeze little seminars like that in there without disrupting the show, yeah, I think it's a good idea. Almost like we don't even know what's going on if it's not getting in our way from what we want to do, you know, which is buy and sell cards.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
yeah. And I think Toronto has done a good job with that. I kind of forgot about I actually took a few of those in, you know, before my AMG kind of days up at the show as well too. But yeah, it was great. It was fun. I just kind of slid into one of the rooms there, and I listened to a couple actually. I think they might. I don't know if Paul Coffey did one. Anyway, it's kind of interesting to sit down and listen to, you know, kind of them, you know, talking about their careers and lives and all that kind of mixed in. So, you know, being a hockey fan, that was kind of nice to listen to. So, no, I agree. Yeah, on that, I think it's the things like Steve said, as long as it does, because sometimes now the expo has done a better job. I think they've kind of separated the autographs more from the main floor. I haven't been to the last couple, but I'm hoping to get there soon. But because I know that was in the one room setup, that was a bit of an issue with some dealers where it's kind of like as soon as the door comes in, 500 people rush by all the dealers and head to the back room where they were doing the autos. But then, you know, you have to have that because it's a big thing, and I enjoyed some of that. So yeah, you just want to, and I think the setups they're doing the right thing now. So it's yeah, it's been good.
Yeah, I think there's a mix there to be had. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see if they take any lessons from it. That's kind of my what I'm advocating here is not to try to rip it off exactly because it wouldn't necessarily make sense. What I'm suggesting is borrow some of the best components with the card show still being the focus. I think there's a happy medium here to be had where you can get a little bit of both. And I think that's the lesson here. Clearly there is an audience that really likes those festival type things.
Yeah.
Give them a little bit of that, but then give the card show people what they want. And I think maybe it just makes for a better show. So we'll see.
Yep.
All right. So I've got you guys right on time. So I think we're good. Good discussion. I wanted to actually have it at the end. If any of you folks have any thoughts or comments, feel free to throw them in the comment section. Slowly, we've been creeping up on those subscriptions as well. So remember to hit the like button on the video, subscribe for Blair. You know, subscribing also helps Blair recover some of his cup, you know, losses. So you got to help the guy out. Help the guy out where you can. We'll definitely come back with some more videos and everything. Also, if you got direct questions that are time sensitive, reach out directly to the store. We've had the scrolling ticker across the bottom with the social medias. Links are also in the description. You can reach out again for pricing, availability on any of the stuff we talked about, the cards or the boxes, anything related to it. Reach out directly to the store. If you got a less time sensitive question, just a general comment or question, put it in the comment section. We usually follow up on it the following episode. So, for Bonus Blair hanging out in the attic until further notice, until he's let out, Steve, the Collector, Scallops Collector people. Episode 86 in the books. Thank you very much. We'll catch you in the next one.